Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny, and I am a Canadian knitter living in the beautiful northeast of England. And today I wanted to share with you the kind of rest of my 2026 knitting plans video, and this will be the section. I did end up recording it on the same day. I went and had a cup of tea and lay down for a few minutes and then came back and recorded the rest of it. So there will be an outfit change, but that will be the section where I talk about the patterns that I don't have yarn for yet, but that I am interested in finding yarns for, because I am really excited about those patterns and want to challenge myself with them and things like that. So I will talk. I need to stop myself from going into this spiel again because I'm about to say all of this in the other recording. So that is what I'm going to share with you, but just doing a little intro and then sharing that felt, I don't know, like not, so I will come back afterwards, by which I mean I'm going to record it right now, but in editing I will put it afterwards. I decided on yarn for the first pattern that I'm going to talk to you about, and then I found it on sale. So I have found and purchased yarn for the first pattern, and I will come back and show you what colors I chose. So, patterns that I'm really excited about, that I don't have yarn for, but that I am going to let myself buy yarn for. Not all at once, and I am hoping to get through a bit of this first, but the goal right now is really to be kind to myself as much as possible, and I'm not putting a restriction on, even if I find other yarn that I'm really excited about, I'm not gonna, I'm not imposing a no buy on myself or anything like that. Getting through the stash is about making myself more comfortable, but we gotta go for joy right now. I think the world's hard. The world is really hard, and I'm trying to be as kind to myself as possible. So I am open to buying more yarn in general, but these are the patterns that I really want to buy yarn for and that I will actively be looking for yarn for. And the first of those is a pattern that I am obsessed with. I'm so excited about this. I kind of want to, buy yarn for this right away and ditch everything else and just knit this, but I don't have the pattern yet. So anyways, this is the Lucky Pieces vest, vest jacket? I'm not sure what you would call it, but the Lucky Pieces vest by Inyoung Kim. And this is not a new pattern. This came out in 2021, and it was in Pom Pom, in the quilts issue of Pom Pom Quarterly, and I just completely missed this when it came out. I don't know why, I don't know how it slipped by me, but I did not see it until a couple of months ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm so excited about it. So this is a vest or a short-sleeved jacket knit out of entrelac, or knit in entrelac knitting, and it has what looks like pinwheels or quilt pinwheels all over in lots of different colors. In the sample they've used 9 different contrast colors, and I've never been interested in entrelac knitting before. It's not visually something that has ever appealed to me before. I've never seen a pattern that excited me about it before, but this one I'm obsessed with, and now I'm very excited about the idea of doing some entrelac knitting, and this will be an adventure. I might let myself buy this pattern and buy some yarn before too long and start this, but part of me wants to get through some of my stash first because I think that this will be very time consuming, and I think that this will be a long-term knit. And the reason that I think this is I have been reading through the other project pages religiously, and almost everyone who has knit this says the same things. They say that they were completely in love with this pattern when they first saw it and just had to buy the issue of Pom Pom just for this pattern, which is exactly how I feel. But then that it was really difficult to knit, especially difficult to get started. It sounds like the pattern is quite minimal and doesn't offer a ton of guidance on the entrelac knitting, or how the colors should lay out, or how the entrelac knitting all fits together to create the kind of square bottom of the vest, or the rectangular bottom, I guess, of the vest or jacket. And it sounds like this was unclear to the extent that Pom Pom actually released a blog post kind of guiding people through the beginning of that. So everyone talks about how it was really hard to get started. Then they found the blog post and they found other people's guidance in notes. There are a number of knitters who've provided really, really good notes. But that it was still pretty tricky, and though they're so pleased to have the finished object, and they did enjoy the knitting process, they would not knit it again. So I know what I'm getting myself into, at least. I think that this is such an interesting, because I feel so similarly to all of these other knitters who've knit this. I just feel like, even if it's going to be an unpleasant experience, not an unpleasant experience, even if it's going to be a bit frustrating, even if it's going to be a bit tricky to get started and have so many ends, weaving in the ends is definitely something that everybody has talked about. I think that's part of what makes it a less than thrilling knitting experience. Even despite that, I'm going to knit it. I'm going in with my eyes wide open because I'm just obsessed with it. I recognize that you might not be obsessed with it. I was like, you know, showing my mom pictures of this and talking about how excited I was to knit it, and in a very my mother way, she said, I can see why you like that, which is a polite my mom way of saying, I don't like that at all. Which I just think is so funny. My mom and I have very similar taste in some ways, right? We're both gonna have basil cardigans that are the same yarn, but in other ways we have quite different taste, and I completely respect that. I can see why this might not be everybody's thing, but it is so my thing, and I'm very, very excited about it. One thing to say about this is that this is knit in the sample. This is knit out of Jamieson's of Shetland, Spindthrift, which is yarn that I have been wanting to use for ages. This is of the two companies that produce kind of similar fingering weight woolen spun yarn from Shetland. This is the slightly smaller company that has a mill actually based on Shetland, and their colors are gorgeous and heathered and just beautiful. So I've been wanting to use that yarn for ages, but I do not think that I will use it for this project. And the reason I don't think I will use it for this project is that this pattern is knit at a gauge of 22 stitches and 30 rows in 10 centimeters in stocking stitch after blocking. And that is just too loose for me. And especially because, I mean, this is just called the Lucky Pieces. I keep calling it a jacket. That's just me. But I am picturing this as a bit of a jacket kind of outer layer to wear over things. And I would like it to be at a stiffer gauge, at a denser gauge. So I have a few things in mind. Briggs & Little Sport could be an option, another woolen spun, but then I have to think about colors. So I don't know, I'm going to take my time with buying yarns to work for this, because I love the kind of playful colors that Inyoung Kim has used in the sample, and I'd like to recreate that feeling, even if I don't use those exact colors. So I'm not ready to go ahead on anything with this yet, but oh, I'm excited about it. Okay, next up is the Roosty tank top by Ella Gordon. Ella Gordon is a Shetlander, and the Roosty tank top is a true Fair Isle vest. Not just stranded color work, but true Fair Isle by a Shetland designer. Again, using yarn from Shetland. So this uses Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and I think that I will use Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. I think I will use exactly the colors that Ella Gordon has laid out in the sample. I think her colors are gorgeous, but I will use her colors with one exception. And the one exception is the titular rust color. So in the description of this pattern, she talks about how she's called this the Roosty tank top because she's picturing kind of sea blues and turquoises and teals with an orange that reminds her of rusty iron in the sea. And I love those colors together, but rust is not a color that I wear very much. It's not a color that's anywhere in my wardrobe. I think I'm going to replace that with a kind of lime green is what I'm thinking. I pair blues and greens together quite a bit. I think that will kind of be similar to the colors that I used in my Hesper cardigan that I knit at the end of last year, and I think that those are really exciting. So this will fill a number of itches for me. I wanted to knit a Shetlander Farrell design for quite a while, so that will be very exciting. I've still never steeked anything. And partially I've never steeked anything because I have not previously been a big cardigan wearer. And that is probably one of the main places that I would find steeking in my own wardrobe. I'm not scared of steeking. I think I will be very scared when I actually do it. But in general, I use really rustic wools. I find my wools hard to frog, even ripping in the direction that the yarn wants to unravel. I find it very sticky sometimes, so I'm not overly freaked out by steeking, but I think that this will be a really good opportunity to do it with a good woolly wool, a wool that is really designed for steeking and will stay where it's meant to be. So this is designed to be steeked at the armholes and at the neck. I have seen in other Ravelers projects that various people have also steeked it down the center and turned it into a button-up vest. I like that idea as well. I might do that. So not fully decided, but this will be a good one that I will buy myself some yarn for, buy the pattern, and cast on if I get really, I want to say homesick, that's not the word, but if I get really homesick for stranded color work, if I get to a point where I really want to do some stranded color work, this will be what I reach for, because I think that'll be really nice. Yeah. Hello. I'm Jenny from the quite distant future in the context of this video. It's been a few months. I had a bit of a crash and wasn't able to edit and upload this video, and then I'm feeling better, thankfully. I've had a haircut. It's been a chunk of time. I wanted to jump in because the next cluster of patterns that I was going to talk to you about were Stephen West patterns, and I feel like I was quite late in hearing about that bit of controversy. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will link to a video below by Lucy Liang. I feel like she's done a really great job of kind of compiling what there is to know, and does quite a balanced job. I thought her video was really thoughtful, as her videos always are. But I don't want to say too much. I don't want to talk about this too much, primarily because I feel like the more we talk about this, the more attention we are driving towards the kind of person who originated all of this drama by inviting Stephen West on his podcast, and he deserves as little attention as we can manage. But I did, and I just don't feel like I have anything to contribute to the conversation, really. I feel like everything's been said, and I don't have anything to add, but I am conscious that I do also need to explain why I've made the decision I have, and there are a number of reasons for why I've made the decision I have. I am, I guess, generally inclined to believe Stephen West's statement that he didn't know about who this gentleman was when he went on the podcast. If I'm honest, my reasons for believing him are probably fairly cynical, only because I don't know any of these people, right? As most of us don't know any of these people. So I don't know Stephen West at all. But cynically, my impression is that Stephen West is a very, very savvy marketer. I don't think you get to be as big as Stephen West is in the knitting world without having a good instinct for your customer base and your audience, and having a really good instinct for marketing. And this was clearly a big misstep in that context. And it doesn't feel like the kind of thing that he would have done deliberately, just because it would have been a really dumb move professionally, and that doesn't seem to fit with my understanding of Stephen West. And I don't mean to suggest that that's all I have ever thought about Stephen. Like, I think that that's part, like, all of the really big designers are really savvy marketers. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. But I do also, I then don't understand why he did the podcast when the gentleman in question, who I'm going to say as little about as possible, but when the gentleman in question has such a small YouTube channel, and I don't feel like I've seen Stephen West do a lot of interviews. He doesn't go on lots of small channels, so in that sense, I don't know what to think. Anyways, so that. I don't have anything to contribute. I don't have a firm idea on the kind of controversy itself, but I have decided that I don't need to give any of my money to Stephen West, and part of that is he's doing all right. He doesn't need my money. And I'm not sure where I settle on the whole thing, so I would, you know, I would like to feel more certain about someone not supporting evil before I give them my money. But also just in a kind of entirely separate way, the reason that I wanted to knit some Stephen West patterns was really for a learning curve. You know, I talk in the bit of the clip that I'm going to get rid of, in the bit of my video that I'm going to overlay this over, I talk about how, you know, I am not a mystery make-along person. I like to know exactly what I'm going to knit, and I like to plan out my colors exactly with, like, you know, as much information as I can have. Mystery knitting is not for me. I wish it was, because it looks like it's lots of fun, but it's not who I am as a person. But I really love watching other people talk about the mystery make-alongs that he hosts each year around his patterns. And I feel like people are always talking about how much they learn doing his patterns, and that was of real interest to me. So I think that was really the main reason I wanted to make those, the shawls that I talked about. But actually, in the months since I filmed that, as I have been crashed and again not able to knit as much, so spending a lot of time on Ravelry and watching other people's videos, there are a number of other kind of like categories of patterns that I think would equally teach me lots of new techniques and lots of new things that I am actually just much more excited to knit. So there's a selfish component to this too, where I might have made this decision no matter what. I probably wouldn't have cut this out of the video, but anyways, there we are. So to move on to the the bit of the video that is the point of the video, I am going to replace that kind of segment of my knitting plans that I am letting myself buy yarn for, that I'm excited to buy yarn for, with modular knitting, and modular knit vests in particular, but also I am thinking of some shawls, and I've seen some patterns, but I haven't come across anything that tickles my fancy in quite the same way. So I want to share with you 3 vest patterns that I'm really, really excited about. And the first one, which is the first one that I came across, is the Walled Garden Vest by Sonja Bargielowska. And Sonja is one of the 2 owners now of one of the 2, I feel like I still think of them as the new owners, but it's been quite a few years now, of John Arbon Textiles, and this pattern came out in their annual, I want to say their 3rd annual, maybe their 4th annual, don't quote me on this. I will put on the screen, I think it was the 3rd. But I love this. I think this is so good. I did put this in my favorites, my queue, right when she released it, but I thought that it would be something that I would do further down the line, because this would be such a good stash buster. But I am now thinking that maybe I need to buy yarn for one of these, and then I could always knit another one for stash busting, because there are 3 that I really like. So there, you know, I'm not necessarily going to make myself wait until I've knit enough other Iran, or in this case worsted weight sweaters, to have leftovers for a garment. But I think this would be really good stash busting, and I just really like the vest. I think it's such a clever idea. I think that the way that they photographed it, and the way that they in the annual had like the 3 different colorways, just really great. I really like it. Recently, I have also seen Amy Christoffers' newest release pattern at the time of filming is called the Cabin Pullover, and it's got, I'm realizing that I'm quite obsessed with quilt motifs. I'm not going to let myself go on this tangent, but for a long time I thought that quilting wasn't something I could do because I can't sit at a sewing machine. Physically, I'm not able to do that. And I was kind of talking to my mom about that, and she was like, people knit quilts for a really long time before we had sewing. Like, what are you talking about, basically? So I am hoping to get into quilting. It's going to be really slow. You know, taking up a new skill is going to be much gentler curve for me than it used to be. I have to take things really easy, but I am realizing that I think this is quite on trend right now. but I think it's touching into like a deep obsession that I didn't know I had. So I'm really excited about the cabin pullover. It has the kind of log cabin quilt motif on it. I think I would knit this as a vest as well. This is just a pullover, just a regular sweater, the way that she has written it. But I've seen some other people do it in great colors and as short-sleeved sweaters, or I think it would be really good as a vest. I'm also interested in, I might do a lighter weight yarn and make it a bit smaller. I find the motif really, really big in proportion to the size sweater that she has made in her sample. So I might play around with that and knit that smaller and then just accommodate the rest. So in that sense, maybe this wouldn't be a good first modular knitting pattern for me. Maybe I need to become familiar with the techniques a little bit more before I play around. But I am excited about that. And the third one that I want to share with you is not actually released. I don't know what it's called, but I love it. So this is a vest that I saw Gudrun Johnston wear, coincidentally in an interview with Ella Gordon, who designed the Roosty tank that I will just have talked to you about. And in this interview, it's one of a series that Gudrun Johnston has been doing. When she was in Shetland, she was interviewing different Shetland knitters. If you aren't following her, I think her YouTube channel is called The Shetland Trader, but if you aren't following her, if you aren't watching those videos and you are interested in traditional knitting and Shetland knitting and that kind of stuff, I would really recommend those videos. They're great. I thought the interview with Ella Gordon was really fascinating. I really enjoyed it, but I was also just like very distracted by the vest that Gudrun Johnston was wearing. She is working on a book about vests for Lina, so I mean it's almost certain that that vest is going to be in her book. I'm sure that she was wearing it partially as marketing, which is why I feel comfortable sharing a photo of it here. I usually feel uncomfortable kind of like clipping or sharing non-marketing materials. I feel comfortable doing it here because surely it is kind of marketing. She's being deliberate. She's wearing things to get us to be excited about them. But yeah, I don't know what it's called yet. I don't know when that book is coming out. I think it's in the autumn, September or something like that. I was kind of like generally interested in the book before. I'm generally interested in her patterns, though I've not knit any of them yet. I've been wanting to knit one of hers for a long time, and now I am really looking forward to the release of this book, because that one, I've been interested in a few of the vests that she's talked about, but this one in particular, I want it and I want to knit it, and I want to see how it looked like there were like almost like yarn over gaps between the sections, so I'm really interested to see how she's done that. So yeah, I'll hand you back to the rest of my other video. And then the final pattern that I want to talk to you about today is the Badger by Jennifer Beale. And I'm so excited about this. So this is yet another garment that is knit from one arm to the other arm across the body, and this is all over colorwork again. Will require steeking, I believe, again for the neck, so a good challenge. This one I'm definitely leaving until later on, and there are two reasons I'm leaving this until later on. One is I don't know what colors I would knit this in yet. Jennifer Beale's sample is kind of neutrals. I think it's a cream, a brown, and a black, all natural shape colors, I believe. And it's just gorgeous, and I feel like I would be quite happy to knit in neutral colors that mimic hers. But color could also be fun, and I can't quite decide what colors I would use in that case, so we'll see. I need to think about that a little bit. This calls for sport weight yarn and is knit at 24 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches, so Breaks and Little Sport could be a good option for me here, which would make this a Canadian design that I would knit up in a Canadian yarn. I quite like that. Jennifer Beale is another designer that I talked about in that Canadian Knitters video. The second reason, to circle back, apologies for my constant tangents, the second reason that this is what I'm going to leave until a bit later is difficulty. And Another thing that I love about Jennifer Beale, oh yes, this is where I was going with this, is one of the things that I really like about Jennifer Beale is how much information she provides up front so that you really know what you're getting into. And she says on the pattern page here, on the project page, that there are plenty of rest rounds in between the 3 color stranded rounds. Approximately 44% of the rounds are single color stockinette. So that's good. About 44% are single color. So I don't know, maybe that doesn't even qualify as all over color work at that point. 25% are 2 color stranded rounds. Great. And 31% are 3 color stranded rounds. Now I have done 3 color stranded color work before, at least once, but it was a hat. I might have done it more than that, but the example that I remember the most clearly was a hat with not a lot of 3 color rounds, and the idea of doing 31% of this garment in 3 color stranded color work is a bit daunting to me. Just requires more hands than I have. And, you know, more opportunities for yarn getting tangled, but also more opportunities for tension issues and that kind of stuff. So I definitely want to knit the Roosty tank before I knit the Badger, just to get myself back into the swing of stranded color work, doing, you know, 2 color Fair Isle style, which is usually just 2 colors at a time, color work, stranded color work first, and hopefully that will get me back into a comfort zone with color work, because I have not done any in a year. So hopefully that will get me back into my comfort zone with stranded color work, and then I'll be able to move on to the Badger after that. So those are my 2 reasons: color and difficulty, that I'm not gonna cast this on right away, but it is just so impressive, and I really love that it is high level of difficulty and will be a really challenging, entertaining knit, but it also looks like an everyday item of clothing, if that makes sense. Like I like that it doesn't look overly, like it doesn't look overworked, it doesn't look overly fancy, it doesn't look like it's necessarily going to draw attention to itself as something, like it's both a statement piece and something you could wear all the time. Like she's wearing it over jeans in her sample photos, and I really like that. So anyways, now I'm really just babbling, but I am really, really excited about the design. I just want to build myself up to it a little bit and think about color. So the yarn that I have decided on for the Lucky Pieces vest, jacket, I still have no idea what to call it, is a new yarn, a yarn that I have never tried before, and a yarn that I don't think all that many people have tried because it is new. So I was thinking about, I was looking at all sorts of options. I was really interested in Briggs & Little for a while, as I mentioned. I had decided against the fingering weight suggested in the pattern. I decided against Briggs & Little really just because I was struggling to find enough colors that I thought would work, or the right combination of colors. So anyways, what I ended up going with, I'm really excited, is Fjallalopi from Lopi, and this is a new yarn from them, and it's quite cute. It actually says on the ball band, new Lopi member. Down here. And this is a sport weight yarn from Lopi. It suggests that you knit it on 3 to 4 millimeter needles, and they suggest a gauge of 22 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So that's really interesting, because to me that speaks more to a DK weight gauge than a sport weight gauge. But I haven't done any swatching or anything like that with this yet. I'll hold up all of the colors for you. But one thing about the Lucky Pieces vest is that the gaps between the sizes are quite large, and it suggests very little positive ease. So it suggests, or not very little, but less positive ease than actually works for the gaps between the sizes. I think it suggests 2 inches of positive ease, and in my case, if I were to go for the smallest size, it would be 1 inch smaller than my full bust circumference. But the next size up is then, I should double check the dimensions, I think it's like 4 to 6 inches bigger than my bust circumference. So much bigger than the suggested ease, and much bigger than I would want it to be, actually. So I'm going to play around and see I might end up knitting this at a slightly tighter gauge than 22 stitches per 10 centimeters, which is the gauge suggested in the pattern as well. So I'll play around and see what I'm happy with in terms of fabric, but it wouldn't be a bad thing. Double negative. I would be pleased actually if I ended up liking a fabric that was slightly denser, because then I could get a size of garment that might be more what I'm looking for. But let me show you the colors. I hadn't thought through, I'm not really sure how I'm going to hold all of these. The colors are also looking fairly accurate right now. I did take some pictures the other day when we had good lighting, just so that I would be able to show you the colors, even if the camera... It's looking pretty good. This one is looking quite blue. It's actually a teal. Oh, this is exactly the same shade as my, or just about exactly the same as my Waiting for Rain shawl. So they're looking pretty accurate, but I will share a picture as well, just in case. Let's see if you can see all of those. And I am so pleased. I think they're really great. I think I'll talk through all of this a bit more when I actually come to knit the pattern, but I tried to kind of recreate not the exact colors that the sample piece uses, but the kind of balance of light and dark colors of, you know, from different parts of the color wheel. But at the same time, I was really excited about the Fjallalopi because all of these are colors I like, and that wasn't the case with every yarn that I was looking at. Lots of times when I would find a combination that suited what I thought would be good for the pattern, it ended up being lots of things that I didn't think would work well with my existing wardrobe, and that's not ideal, because I'm excited to wear this. So I think, you know, some good dark colors, some lighter colors, and I'm quite excited about that. This is also like, yeah, this is a good example of that. Like all the other Lopi yarns, this is beautifully heathered just with the different colors of natural wool that it's dyed on. So I think you can see kind of the darker colors popping through the yellow dye there. I think that's clear as well with this kind of lovely turquoisey. This is kind of the same color as the Yarbo yarn that I bought. This one's the same as this is the same as Yarbo. I'm repeating, but that's a sign that I like these, right? That's a sign that these colors, I think, are gonna work well with my wardrobe, and I really like all of them, even the ones that I don't wear so much. I don't wear a lot of yellow, but I love this yellow. So I think that that's gonna work really well. I am really excited to cast this on, and I imagine that lots of us are the same, in that when the yarn arrives, I'm like, oh, I want to cast on right away. But I'm actually going to hold myself back a little bit. I'm going to hold myself back partially because I know that this pattern is going to be challenging and possibly frustrating, and my health hasn't been ideal lately. The last few weeks have not been great, and I'm aware that I just don't have a lot of capacity for kind of lots of thinking and concentrating and things like that. But also, and I think even more prominently than that, I know that it's going to slow me down, and I'm going to want to, you know, take my time, and it's going to be slow going and lots of ends to weave in and stuff like that. And I know that for all the reasons I've already discussed, I will feel better doing that and taking my time if I've got a bit more knitting under my belt first. So in my mind, this is kind of a start at the end of the summer, maybe in the autumn kind of project at the earliest. But I am really pleased to have found the yarn, because it really has made the project feel more concrete. And like now I can really picture what I'm going to wear it with and stuff like that. So I am very, very excited. And yeah, I'll do lots more talking about... I use paint, like Microsoft Paint, a lot more as an adult than I thought I would with knitting. I did lots of, you know, compiling different pictures of colors of yarn and, you know, trying them in different combinations next to each other and making things black and white to see what the contrast levels were and things like that. So if that's interesting, I can do some more talking about that. I had a lot of fun with it. So I'm going to stop myself because I, you know, was on track to have a slightly shorter video for you this time, and if I babble on, I will change that very quickly. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are well, that you are safe, and that you are enjoying your knitting, and I will see you next time.